Blah.
Isn't it crazy that this movie is 18 years old? Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street from 2007, directed by Tim Burton. Never forget, never forgive. The infamous story of Benjamin Barker, aka Sweeney Todd, who sets up a barber shop down in London, which is the basis for a sinister partnership with his fellow tenant, Mrs. Lovett, based on the hit Broadway musical. So it's based on the hit Broadway musical. I think it's Andrew Lloyd Webber. No, it's Stephen Sondheim. I think that's the name of the dude. Tim Burton, perfect guy to take something on like this. I love how he gives him a white streak in his hair doing the Dave Vanian, the 1980s Gothic Dave Vanian from The Damned sort of nod, which is just perfect for a guy like Tim Burton to just sort of inject these subcultural elements into something that is mainstream. We were just talking about homogenization. That's homogenization, but I think a good kind of homogenization where you're bringing something that's sort of very counterculture to the masses in a better kind of way. I would say that this film adaptation suffers from way too much CGI. There's so much unnecessary, lazy, dare I say lazy CGI. If someone like Ridley Scott had adapted this, he would not have used it. However, nobody is better suited for this than Tim Burton. And I will tell you, this is dark. I mean, sure, there is a tongue firmly planted in cheek, but this is a very dark Greek. It's a Greek tragedy. I watched it with my son. The throat slashings were too much for him, so he had to cover his eyes for that stuff. I base everything on Predator. He saw Predator when he was 7, fucking loved it. And so I'm like, if you can, I always ask myself when I'm gonna like show him something, like if he watched Predator, could he watch this? You know, if he could watch Predator 2, could he watch this? You know what I mean? And so I let him watch Sweeney Todd. The way it ends, it's so fucking Shakespearean, man. It's just the way that it all plays out. And this was the viewing that hit me, like how truly dark and stark it, like stark and bleak and just horrifying. And, you know, I don't know, man. It's very well done. The casting as well. Alan Rickman is incredible. You have so many people from Harry Potter, I guess brought in by Helena Bonham Carter, who was Tim Burton's partner. You know, she and Johnny Depp starred in like every Tim Burton movie during the 2000s, right? Like 5 or 6 movies like in a row. I'm not a big fan of the songs. I don't like the Sondheim, whatever. I don't like the way he writes songs. They're not very catchy. They don't have hooks. We talked a lot about metaphor. My son and I always pause movies. I'm like, what's the metaphor here, son? What's the metaphor here? We talked about the cracked mirror that he stares into, which is a metaphor for his sort of his psyche and his morality. How he sings about how the razors are his friends, that he doesn't have human beings are not his friends, but the instrumentation for violence and revenge are his friends. And of course, those instruments are turned on him at the end when the boy then ends up dispatching Sweeney Todd down in the basement cellar. He gets his just desserts. Sweeney Todd really works as a Tales from the Crypt episode as well. You know, I mean, Tales from the Crypt is really just like karmatic justice, just desserts from wicked people. Sweeney Todd is an irredeemable anti-hero. I wouldn't call him a protagonist. I wouldn't say there's no real protagonist. I guess maybe the kid that runs off with his daughter. He tells her at the end, he says, "Forget my face," which is so ironic considering that he's speaking to his daughter and he doesn't even realize it. Or maybe he does realize it. Somewhere deep down in his subconscious, he does realize it, recognizes he doesn't want his daughter to know him in this way. And just before he had dispatched his wife, her mother, who had survived, Alan Rickman is this horrible, nasty judge. There's the scene where they sentence the kid to death by hanging because he steals, which is just so evocative of Victorian London. My son had acted in Mary Poppins, so I thought this was kind of like the other bookend for him, right? He loved it. He loved Sweeney Todd. Again, not the violence so much, and I had to cover his eyes. The way that they use color for her, like, sort of fantasy, where she's kind of imagining a life that they could have together, married and whatnot, is just so great. And the way he's so banal, like, this is Tim Burton at his best, man. There is something to be said, like, typically Tim Burton, when he's doing original stuff, it's always going to be top notch. And when he adapts things, it's always like style over substance. I would say that Sweeney Todd balances the style and the substance. Sacha Baron Cohen is so great as Pernelli. He's just fantastic. That whole scene is fantastic. And he's like secretly, you know, he's somebody from Benjamin Barker's past. It's just great, man. The way the movie just builds to the revenge that you're thirsty for it. You're bloodthirsty for the revenge. The recognition of the judge Judge Turpin, recognizing that Sweeney Todd is actually Benjamin Barker, and just the way that Mrs. Lovett is pushed into the oven, kind of like the witch. You know, there is a very Hansel and Gretel sort of affinity, sort of energy to this whole thing. I would say it's a very rewatchable movie, and I will continue to rewatch it as the years go on. I can't believe it's going to be 20 years old. 2 more years, it's going to be 20. That's insane to me.